going to start by remembering Steve Walton, or Geyser, as many of us will know him. Steve unfortunately died Tuesday last week. He got up and about 4 o'clock in the morning, 4 or 5 in the morning, and had an acute heart failure. Never got back to bed. If you want to know what a safety rep should be, could be, and where we should all aspire to be as safety professionals and safety leaders, that's it. Steve was absolutely a giant of a man, a complete stoic advocate of safety, safety engagement, step change, and the HSE's WIG group. He was an absolute star within the Shell and WIG group PSN community, and he contributed so much to everybody, and did it so quietly. We had to persuade him to be seen as a safety leader. He would not take that title. He just wouldn't stand up and be seen as a leader, despite the fact that what he did on a day-to-day basis made each of our lives better. If you go back to what I consider to be one of his greatest contributions to step change, about 18 months ago, Steve stood up at our industry leadership breakfast and he challenged the suits in the room, as we would call them, that Oil and Gas UK's safety events were prohibitive, too expensive for safety reps to go to. Malcolm Webb was there, and Malcolm went back to the office, and immediately, from that point on, 10% of all spaces at Oil and Gas UK events were free to safety reps. So completely free. Think about that in real terms. That meant that Piper 25, the full 3-day conference, 50 reps got to go to the whole conference. Per head cost, about £600, £30,000 given as a result of Steve's words. So you look at what impact each of us can have, you look at the opportunity to influence and make change. That's an example of how it could and should be. So when you go back, and when things are tough, I would ask you to think of Steve. Try and think what he would do, because I can assure you, even when it was really difficult, he always found a way to make it work. And sometimes it was just telling us all that we didn't know what we're talking about. And there is a much easier way. He'd a really, he's from Yorkshire. He got through the shit really, really quickly and told us what we weren't doing well. So look to him as a benchmark of what safety rep should be. And there are Jake and Nicky and John, and there's others here who knew Steve much better than I did. Through the day, go and speak to them. Ask them about Geyser, and use the day as a proper testimony and a proper memorial to Steve. And I'm going to invite Jake up just to say a few words before we go into the main body.
I wrote a few words down last night because it's difficult talking about your mate. And I call him my mate, Geyser, because he died on November 19th, which was 27 years short of one day since the day I met him. I met him on the 20th of November 1986 for the first time. It was 14 days after the Chinook had crashed, killing 45 guys, many of whom were workmates of Geyser. And I think that cast the mould for Geyser, myself and others. After the shock of that situation eased, the first question about the man was the obvious one. Geyser, how did that come about? The story goes that on one of his night shift cleaning projects, he literally went overboard with his cleaning efforts. The day shift in the Brent Delta were coming out to work and discovered the impact of Geyser's cleaning efforts the night before, and it wasn't a shiny deck. He'd apparently put 2 45-gallon drums of Geyser degreaser down on the deck, much of which went over the side. The effect of which was the sea all around the platform had turned a milky white colour as the day shift come out to work in the morning. So the name stuck, and it stuck forevermore. But it's not his cleaning efforts which we should remember him for, as Les has just said. I'll remember him for his sense of fun, his integrity, his commitment, his enthusiasm, his intelligence, his competence, his passion, his diplomacy, and the fact he was always respectful and courteous, no matter what was thrown at him. This is a man that not everybody liked. In fact, a few detested him and referred to him quite often as a nutcase. Some of them referred to him as Professor Popcorn, I remember, out in the Brent. But in Geyser's own inimitable fashion, he was able to counter the claims of being a nutcase by producing a document which was a certificate of sanity. He kept it in his room all the time and regularly pulled it out. And this is a nutcase that did the Times crossword every day, by the way. I worked with Steve during the Piper years and through the regulatory change that occurred. And we became safety reps in the early days, sitting on the same safety committees quite often. And it was his selfless approach which impressed me most about Geyser, because what he did affected many, many workers, and many, many workers owe this man a great deal for the impact he's had in the years. But as Les said, he did it very quietly and without claiming any reward or recognition. One example was during the mid-90s. I mean, Les talked about 30 grand. I could top that one. Geyser supported his constituency in the Brent Delta when Shell announced they were getting rid of the 2 search and rescue aircraft in the field. Not just his constituency, the entire field, the entire East Shetland Basin, because Geyser's contribution was such that it culminated in an article in our union magazine called "For Whom the Bell Toils." It was a play on one of his favourite books, another one of his favourite pastimes, reading. The outcome of that was that Shell had to build a hangar on a flotel to house 2 search and rescue aircraft, to keep them in the field for a further year, and then thereafter invest £1 million a year in search and rescue facilities through the Statoil field to keep a search and rescue aircraft in the East Shetland Basin. All down to that man. That was around 1995, and he went on to get involved in countless initiatives, all of which were about improving safety standards to protect his constituents and the wider workforce. Some of the things he got involved with were lifting systems, emergency response exercises, maintenance processes, asset integrity issues. He pushed for the NEBOSH training, and which is pretty much standard now. He was involved in a lot, and most recently he committed his time again and sacrificed it to get involved in the new safety rep pilot courses used to develop the final standard of the new SI 971 development courses. And then, of course, he went on to influence what was probably the most significant offshore safety conference ever staged anywhere, and he contributed significantly to that. Steve will be missed. He's a great loss to the industry, because I believe he still had a great deal more to give. And if we had a couple more Geysers out there, I think that would be a different place today. That would certainly be a safer place. We owe Geyser a lot, and we should remember him today, because he achieved what we all strive for. He made a difference. Thanks.